Trefecta is the vehicle basically we see in front of us. This is our very first vehicle. This is our tour de force, if you will. We are showing what we can do, how much innovation we can introduce into what was already an existing business model, if you will. It's being a modular concept. It allowed us to realize basically two different versions of the bike. There's the DRT, the off-road, as it stands in front of me. And then there's the urban version, which is, you can see over my shoulder. These are two different bikes in character. One is very much more agile and designed for road use primarily. And the other is really the other extreme, where you're saying it's a full off-road bike, much harsher, tougher to ride in that regard, where the one is plush and comfortable in the city, the other can take the big hits and the rough terrain. Normally, if you buy a product, 20% of what you pay for is represented in material and labor. In our case, it's 80% because we set ourselves incredibly tough targets to achieve. As such, we had to design and build everything custom, and we wanted to push as much of that value towards the client. It's going to be relatively expensive to acquire, but because it has, for example, a lifetime warranty on the frame, and it's modular in its construction, the vehicle can grow with you over time. So this is not something that the cost is amortized over a short period. It's amortized over a lifetime. And when you look at it in that perspective, the vehicle has an extremely low per kilometer cost, only a few cents, which is phenomenal, really. For example, the brakes. There's a small company that manufactures the very best brakes for these kind of vehicles. We didn't have to reinvent the wheel. So those parts altogether probably represent less than 1% of the total vehicle. How to ride the bike it's actually, again, a hybrid. There is a throttle and we have a bottom bracket sensor. This sensor actually measures the torque, the actual power you put into the pedals, as well as at which speed you're pedaling, and actually takes over the function of a throttle. So you have no need of a throttle. It's an additional tool to allow you to maneuver in very tight spaces, or where possibly you don't have the pedaling ability, or whether you have a lazy day and you choose to just ride on the throttle. It's probably easiest and becomes most apparent if I walk you through the bike, basically piece by piece, just to show how far and in how much detail we considered all the relevant components in the development process. We can start with the carbon wheels. Obviously a very important part. It's where the vehicle contacts the ground. It was strengthened, widened, and specifically tailored to this bicycle and to the requirements that we set for the wheel. We weren't going to develop tires for ourselves, but there's a wonderful German company which develops tires in all categories that we require. And we've been able to find a suitable tire for the off-road as well as the road vehicle. There's even choices to suit every rider's style. If you then look at the suspension, which is obviously the very next part, in this particular case, the off-road bike, we have an oval fork, which has oval pistons inside, meaning the stanchions can't turn. So we have the stiffness of a bridge fork in an upside-down fork, which is very light, unsuspended weight, which means the tire can follow the terrain best. The fork has additional features which allow it to sink the front of the vehicle so that when you climb a hill, the vehicle remains flat, allowing you to climb steeper angles and more safely. When you reach the top, you push another button and the fork comes back up. The powertrain, it's a very complex system. It took an awful lot of development time to have it working as we wanted. But the idea being is that it works in the background. So we have lots of components, whether it's the electric motor, the smash gearbox, which deals with its power transfer. We have the human side of the powertrain with its own gearbox, both electronically controlled. Does offer immense power. We have over 280 Newton meters of torque on the rear axle with the electric system alone. So if you as a human introduce your own power, you can double that. And the combination of that allows us to give you a seamless experience. You're just pedaling, and whether the motor supports you or how much it supports you is all happening in the background without you ever having to think about it. The electric motor, it's a very compact, actually Swiss-made, cutting-edge electric motor, which we've then taken and we've applied some really nifty way of controlling the electric motor, which gets even more efficiency, more RPMs, more power out of it than the original equipment manufacturer. And it's one of the ways to show our expertise in the vehicle design as a whole. Because we have a two-speed electro-hydraulically controlled gearbox, it's actually the smallest of its kind in the world that can shift under full torque up or down, allowing also regeneration because it allows torque in both directions. This allows the vehicle to be very competent on steep and difficult terrain where a lot of power is required. And on the other hand, it also gives it the wings to go to the maximum speed, which is nearly 60 miles an hour. The frame construction is very peculiar in this bike. It's obviously developed to purpose. And we did that using the most modern manufacturing techniques available to us. So this is designed in CAD. It was FEM calculated for stress, as we would do with the aircraft industry or the really advanced vehicle development. The frame is machined from 7075 aluminium in the case of our limited edition bikes. We start with an 80 kilo block of aluminium and machine it down to 1.8 kilos in total. Lightest, strongest and most durable structures available. We've addressed the geometry. We've included a seat dropper, which is a kind of industry term for a height adjustable seat that you don't have to unlock. There's a little lever that allows you to adjust your position on the go. The two components are integral and allow the folding of the bike. This was a requirement by the military to be able to store the equipment on pallets. So the bike had to be collapsible and stored in a case that would allow its safe transport and storage. You have a vehicle designed, it's nicely put together, and then you have 10 different manufacturers supplying buttons, and you kind of get lost. And we wanted to reduce that to as few buttons as possible. So I think off the top of my head, we have 10 buttons on the bike, which are, it's a third less than on any other bike. And they are all ergonomically reachable with your hands on the grips, which is, from our perspective, an increase in safety, and it makes it much more intuitive to control the bike. With a little use, you never look at the buttons again. You know exactly where they are, and you can operate them in the back of your mind, if you will. The display that we have in the middle between the handlebar controls is actually the central brain of the controls, if you will. It displays which functions you've activated, or state of charge of the battery, range, speed, other relevant data purely involved with riding the bike. When you move back, you'll find that we have an integrated iPod in the frame, and this is for all the nice to have extra gadgets. It gives you navigation, it gives you health tracking apps, and of course our own app, which further allows you to get information out of the bike that you might find interesting, and even the wheelie mode, which is basically a safety feature that on very steep inclines saves the bike from being able to flip over backwards. Bike stand, most come without, ours comes with two. So we have an integrated kickstand, as you would know from maybe more traditional bikes and motorbikes. And we also have a special stand which allows or enables the easy folding of the vehicle into the case, or for service purposes to stabilize the bike when you're working on it. The battery, again, that's an area where I think a lot of traditional bikes have shortcomings. There's too little range in the vehicle because a bicycle doesn't have a lot of space to store energy in the form of a battery. On this vehicle, of course, being a clean sheet design, we were able to incorporate a battery with enough volume, enough cells, with its own battery management system. Again, linking into the powertrain, being able to do regenerate. So whenever you brake this bike, you're also regenerating. And we have 100 kilometers of range in the bike over mixed terrain. If you don't pedal, that's what you'll be able to achieve. When you mention accessories, there are numerous options available, although the basic vehicle is as complete as we could possibly make it. The accessories are additional things like cargo racks. We have different ones in the pipeline for different roles. So not everyone needs one, not everyone wants one, so we accessorize those components. Additional battery packs, features like legal required mirrors and things are lumped together in one package so that if you require it, you're able to upgrade a bike which doesn't have it to that standard, or vice versa, remove them and make a bike an off-road vehicle. What are the differences between the Speed Pedelec and the unlimited off-road version? It's basically just that the unlimited off-road version, all limiters are gone. You can get the full performance from the battery, the electric motor, and the rest of the vehicle, whereas the Speed Pedelec is limited to use on public roads. Speed Pedelec versus off-road, to me, that's both parts of 1 week. Yeah? I would be commuting during the week, using the bike as a road legal vehicle. In the weekends, I would take it off-road as a recreational vehicle. That's kind of what we wanted to achieve in one vehicle, this multi-purpose ability. That's what makes it durable, not only physically, but also over time, because it is a chameleon. It will adapt to whatever you need it to do. We have 2 different frame sizes, a large and a medium. It weighs 45 kilos, ready for use, including the battery pack. To give you a comparison, the bike is more powerful than a motorcycle weighing 150 kilos. So you can see that the efficiency in our design actually led to a very much lighter vehicle that you can still maneuver and lift over obstacles, yet it still gives you that climbing power and pulling power of a motorcycle. We selected colors that we thought really kind of showed the inner strength of the vehicle. So we have some strong and some bold colors, as well as the very understated, darker colors. Yes, there are e-bikes that play in this category, but that's at the maximum of their abilities. For us, that's the starting point. Why would I buy such a vehicle? It's an addition to. I'm not saying that you should get rid of your car. There's times where a car is phenomenal for your family, for long distances. But on, for example, your daily commute into the office, maybe 20, 30, maybe even 40 miles away, you could do that on a bike. Quicker, less stress, you're helping yourself from a physical perspective because you're becoming an active part of your commute. You arrive in the office, you're energized and ready to tackle the day. And on any day where the weather allows that to be a pleasant experience, leave your car at home. What made it possible is the team. A combination of experts from the aircraft industry, from the automobile industry, all involved in the geometry of the bike. The very first point, how do you become a bike? Well, you have to have the right geometry. Boil that all down, you get to the bike. It's a product that harmonizes together. And that's the level that I'm most proud of to have achieved.